So thank you so much guys again for joining us today. My name is Rashmi and I'm from Designhill. All of you people who are new to the platform and new to this webinar, we have been doing a lot of amazing webinars and AMAs for you all. I'll quickly introduce Designhill to you all and then we'll take this webinar forward. So today we have Tom Ross with us, who is the co-founder of Designcuts, and he has been to take his time out for this webinar with us. So thank you, Tom, for taking out your time and joining us today for this webinar.
Hey, Rashmi. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much, guys, again for joining us. A bit about Designhill quickly. We are a global marketplace for designers and business owners to find any kind of graphic design requirement that they have. We have got around 100,000 registered designers on the platform from all over the world, and the similar number of clients and business owners, wherein they can come on the platform, get any kind of design from logo to packaging to social media, graphic design, any kind of design they can get for their business, and by working together with designers. So if you have not checked the website yet, go to designhill.com and you will get to know more about the services that we offer. Talking about the webinar today, we have got Tom Ross again, who will be talking about the marriage of design and marketing and how it can help you in growing your brand and the common marketing mistakes that you should avoid. So I'm sure it is going to be a very, very fruitful and beneficial session for all of us today, and we're going to get some real nice insights from Tom. So thank you, Tom, again for joining us. And I think we should go ahead with this AMA. Just one point I would like to mention to all the attendees who are live, who have joined us right now, is that we will be covering almost 4 subtopics in this entire topic, and Tom will be answering to all of your questions. Tom will be answering to all of your questions in the webinar. So please put your questions in the questions tab. Once we complete the subtopics, Tom will be taking the questions from the questions tab. So please put your questions there, and we will try to take as many questions as possible. We have got limited time though, but then we will try to answer all the questions. So let's start this. Tom, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for having me on, Rashmi. I'm really excited, and thank you everyone for being here. We're going to make this a real value-packed experience for all of you, because I know so many creatives struggle with the marketing side of their business, but when you get a handle on it, it really can unlock so much. It can give you such a fruitful career. It can help you grow your brand. It can help you build a community, build a reputation in the industry. So I'm a huge believer in the power of marketing for creatives. And today I'm going to be talking you through the exact steps, what you can avoid, what you should be focusing on, and trying to bring all of you guys some clarity. So to jump in, if we have a look at my presentation, I'm going to start off by talking about the marriage of design and marketing. And why I think this is so important is because I actually think they can be best friends. And I think so many creatives, they're kind of scared. They're a little bit scared of marketing and sales and that kind of stuff. They would rather be creating. But actually, when you combine the two, they make each other so much stronger. And so I'm going to explain exactly how that works. So when it comes to creativity, I like to think that you've got the best parts of being a designer and you've got some of the worst parts. And if we break that down, this is what that looks like. So some of the best parts of being a creative are that often you're a problem solver. So you can work to visually solve problems for your clients, for yourself. You're invariably very creative. It can be fun. Design is fun. We all enjoy it. We have a great time doing it. And finally, we get to make things look pretty. And I don't want to understate that. Like it can be a lot of fun. I love making stuff look better. That's really satisfying to me. So there's definitely some real benefits, some real positives to being a creative. But then we look at some of the worst elements, and it's the whole starving artist stereotype. I know so many creatives who are very, very talented, but they're barely paying their bills, or they have to do it as a side hustle because they can't earn enough money from their freelance career or their creative business to really sustain and support themselves. So the starving artist thing is definitely a bad side of being a creative. Also, imposter syndrome. So many creatives out there, they have issues with confidence. And often this does come from a lack of business success or a lack of marketing success, but also it's tied to their work. So we get very insecure. We need that kind of validation from people. We need that feedback, and we doubt ourselves. And then finally, bad clients. So I freelanced for a lot of years, and invariably part of freelancing is you need to suffer some bad clients before you actually get to the really, really good clients. So I had to go through clients that screwed me out of money or underpaid me or mistreated me and sat on my shoulder and micromanaged me. So that's some of the bad elements. I just want to check as well. I think this lab can't hear anything. Let us know in the comments if the rest of you guys can hear. I'm going to presume that you can. Okay, yeah, I think Fred can hear. Paul can. Fantastic. I will keep going then. So then we look at some of the best and the worst elements of marketing, and exactly the same approach here. So some of the best elements. Marketing, when done right, can bring you success, whether that's building a business, financial success, whatever it might be. I think one of the best types of marketing is actually empathy. So it teaches you to better understand your community, your clients, and the people that you're trying to reach. It gives you clarity and direction. So when you actually master your marketing, you can move so much quicker and work smarter. And really, it's just like a fantastic tool to be used for any creative. And then that kind of links into confidence, because some of that imposter syndrome starts to fall away when you actually get to master your marketing a little bit more. It makes you a more confident, creative entrepreneur. So like design, there's also some bad elements to marketing. It can be kind of sleazy, right, guys? I don't know if you've seen this. Rashmi, let me know with a thumbs up if you've seen this side of marketing. I can see you down the bottom. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have. Maybe leave a comment, guys, if you've seen, just say yes if you've seen the sleazy side of marketing. I have, because I remember when I tried to learn it, I actually went on Google and I Googled how to do internet marketing. And everything that came up was super sleazy internet marketers trying to sell me ebooks and courses and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of the bad side of marketing. That's what scares a lot of creatives off, because creatives are nice people. They like making nice looking stuff. They like treating people right. And so the idea of this really pushy, sleazy marketing is very off-putting to us. And what this does is it reduces people to numbers. Instead of thinking about your community and all of the people here today, you are, of course, people to me. I really appreciate you being here. I can't wait to answer all of your questions. I can't wait to try and bring you value. But the bad side of marketing is that I just see you as numbers. You might be numbers on a webinar like this. You might be numbers on the Google Analytics dashboard. You might be numbers in my follow account on Instagram. And when you start thinking about people and content just in terms of numbers, and you forget these are real people sat at home with their real lives, I think that can be quite damaging. And so another negative is that often marketers are very, very ugly with their websites. So you've probably seen this as designers, generally we make stuff look really pretty and really nice. But when you go on some of these internet marketing and traditional marketing websites, social media ads and that kind of stuff, they are hideous. They're like some of the worst design stuff ever. And they still are successful because they're very effective marketers, but it just looks really, really ugly. And as I mentioned, they can be very pushy. So they're quite spammy. I get messages on my LinkedIn every day trying to sell me stuff, like trying to ask for stuff, and it comes off really spammy. So it got me thinking, what if we combine the best of both and we stop doing the worst of both? And what would that look like? And it looks pretty awesome, it turns out, because suddenly we get the best elements of design and we get the best elements of marketing, and then we put them together, we marry them together, and they put each other on steroids. And so what does that look like? We've got success, we've got empathy, we've got clarity and direction, confidence in your work. We're going to keep solving problems. We're going to have fun with it. We're going to make stuff look pretty and amazing. And we're going to get really creative, not just in our design work, in our marketing. And we start to lose that imposter syndrome. We lose that starving artist mentality. And they really, really enrich each other. And this is why I've become so obsessed with this. And I think it can be one of the happiest marriages when we do it right. I can see someone in the comments is saying, I used to work for a company as a marketing designer for dating sites, and it was super, super sleazy. So yeah, I think this is true of so many industries. And the sleaze is definitely a bad thing. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. So, as I say, don't be sleazy. And I mentioned before, like I started teaching myself internet marketing at one point, and it felt a little bit like this. It felt pretty dark, pretty scary at points. It wasn't always the nicest experience. And it turns out there's a lot of this kind of stuff around. This is actually a YouTube cover for an episode I did, because I hate these sleazy marketers more than any of you, because I've had years and years of trying to learn this stuff when I was younger, and I got exposed to so many of them. And so I just kind of riffed on it, and I made fun of the guys that have like the Lamborghinis in the background and like put money all over their bed and like, you know, target vulnerable people and trying to sell them a $2,000 course, all of that kind of stuff. So I couldn't help poke a little bit of fun of it. Fred says he needs to see it. It's on my YouTube, Fred, if you check it out. But it turns out when I taught myself all of this stuff, it actually does work to some extent. And these are some stats from the old design blog that I used to run. And I ended up getting over 15 million sessions on my blog. So over 11 million users. And this is because I taught myself traffic generation strategies. So everything I was doing, I was trying to build traffic, because all the marketing I was consuming was saying, you need to get more followers, you need to get more traffic. That's the most important thing, that you get more numbers of people looking at your website. And so everything I did basically mapped to that. All of my actions were designed to get more and more people checking out my blog. And as you can see from these statistics, it really worked. But it wasn't all kind of, you know, easy sailing, and that wasn't as positive as it perhaps looked, because I'd fallen into the trap of vanity metrics. And let me know in the comments, like, say yes or no. Do you know what vanity metrics are, everyone? I just want to get a feeling for if you guys are familiar. Paul says yes, Anise says no, Miss Lab says yes, Llewellyn says no. Okay, Ivy says no. So there's a few of you who aren't familiar. Vanity metrics are basically numbers, they're data, they're numbers that basically indicate things like the number of followers you have, how much traffic you get to your website, how many visitors, that kind of thing. And they're generally quite controllable. You know, we can control how many visitors we get to our blog. We can control how many followers we get to an extent. And you'll notice on social media platforms, for example, these are everything. Everyone's obsessed with followers. It's like, I want to get more likes. I want to get more followers. I want to reach 10K. I want to reach 100K. Everyone's obsessed with this. But what this does is it reduces people to numbers again, because we don't really care about the community. We don't care about the people following us. All we care is about getting more people in the door, more people to follow us. And it becomes basically a vanity metric. It's something which massages our ego. It makes us feel good about ourselves and go, hey, I got 10K. I must be doing something right. But at the end of the day, it's kind of meaningless. And yeah, Fred says I'm guilty for this. I think a lot of people are. We all are. And it's not our fault. It's the fact these platforms are actually designed in order to kind of sucker us into chasing these numbers. We get that little hit of dopamine. We get that little boost of happiness every time we get a follow or a like or a comment. It makes us feel good. So it's definitely not our fault. But I want to talk to you about why vanity metrics are very, very empty, and they don't mean as much as you might think. So to give you one example, we do partnerships all the time at my company, Designcuts. And I've really, really learned that it is not about how many people are in your audience or how many followers you have or anything like that. It really comes down to how much they care. And a perfect example of this is 2 partnerships that we did. One was with an audience that had 1 million people in it, so a really big audience. And another one was with an audience that had just 5,000 people in. And they both had audiences with designers. And the shocking thing was the audience with just 5,000 people in actually got twice as big the results as the audience with 1 million. It massively outperformed it. And for me, that's a perfect example when numbers don't matter. Any day of the week, I would rather do business again with the audience of 5,000 because they were really engaged, they were really interested. And the audience of 1 million, they're pretty disengaged. No one cared that much. So remember, guys, it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about how much traffic you get. It's about how much those people care. And if you look at the second statistic here, where you see it says 40,000 overnight. So let me know in the comments, guys, would you like the idea of getting 40,000 new followers overnight? Just say yes or no and be honest. Fred says no, Anise says no. I think we might have some people telling lies, because I think most people would love the idea of, yeah, Paul would be excited, right? Mikhail says, yeah. Like, I think that's very common. Most people are like, wow, 40,000 followers, like, you know, that would be incredible. And the truth is, and Anise says, I prefer 14 people with genuine interest. That's because you're very switched on, Anise, and I like where your head's at. Okay, so if I go to the next slide, let me know if this looks familiar, guys. And Rashmi, have you seen this graphic before? You have? Okay, that's really cool. So you may well have seen this graphic because we actually made this graphic ourselves, and it went viral a few years ago. And so I still see it come up all the time. People reshare it all the time and often don't credit us. So a lot of people don't even know that we made it. But we put this out on our Facebook page, and overnight it went so viral. It got seen by something like 12 million people. It got shared everywhere, and it just blew up, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we were all celebrating. We said, oh yes, we've made it. This is huge. Like, we must have done something right. This is the best thing ever. Look at this. And 40,000 people joined our Facebook page in about 24 hours. And this was massive, because I think we only had about 40,000 people on it at the time. So it pretty much doubled our Facebook audience overnight. And we thought, this is amazing. You know, we should absolutely celebrate this. But the big issue with this is it wasn't as good as it seemed. So I've gone for a very dramatic stock photo to represent what happened. It wasn't as good as it seemed, because what happened was those people weren't really there because they were interested in what we were doing. They just liked us in the moment because they saw this meme and kind of liked it. But we weren't a meme account. You know, we were a business. We didn't just put out memes, we put out all kinds of stuff. So what happened was the majority of those 40,000 people were very, very disengaged with the regular content we put out. They showed up for the meme, and then they never bothered to unfollow us. They kind of stuck around, but they just never engaged with our content. And what this did was Facebook then starts to perceive your content as worse than it is, because they generally see what ratio of your audience actually engage with your content. And if it's a lower ratio, they will limit the organic reach. And this is where the algorithm comes into play. So let me know in the comments if that makes sense. But essentially, we had roughly the same number of people engaging as before. But now, instead of it being a 40,000 audience, it was an 80,000 audience. And so Facebook thought our content was worse because as a percentage, we had many less people engaging. And so our existing fans then saw our content less, it limited our reach. And it did much more damage than it did good. And I see this over and over and over again. So I actually advise people not to do things like giveaways to grow their following. Because if you do a giveaway, it works in much the same way. Let's say you do it on Instagram. And you say, I'm going to give away this amazing thing. You just need to like and follow us. And if you do that, you might get 10,000, 20,000, maybe even 40,000 new followers. But if those people are just showing up because they want to win an iPad or a laptop or something like that, then they're not going to be as engaged as other people, which means that suddenly your ratio is going to shrink. Less people are going to see your content, and the algorithm is going to penalize you. So that's what happens when all you do is chase vanity metrics. When you're just trying to get more followers, no matter what, then, you know, it's going to come back to bite you. So Paul says, so 80% engagement of 20 is better than 1% of 20,000 people. I can't do maths that quickly, but that sounds about right. So yeah, exactly that. Like, you don't want to have the giant audience where 1% of those people care what you're doing. That's a bad idea, generally, Paul. So if we move on, I would love to know, and this is kind of jumping slightly ahead, does this sound familiar to any of you guys? So this is a very common marketing plan that I see. And what it generally involves is people post work on social media. They grow an audience of their peers, i.e. other designers, instead of their intended clients. And then they wonder why they're kind of stuck in this echo chamber where no one's buying their work, no one's hiring them. They just attract friends and other designers, and they're the ones that like their posts, and that makes them feel good. Paul says, this is me in the comments, and Shash is like, yep. So you post work on social media, you grow an audience of peers and friends instead of other clients. You do this for years and years and years until your audience gets a bit larger, and then you cross your fingers and you hope that clients DM you. And this is literally like the marketing plan that so many creatives I know use, but it's not really a marketing plan. If anything, it is a plan for how to fail. So the question is there a better way? And I would say there definitely is. And I'll show you an example of how you can do this without a big audience and without having, tons and tons of community or anything like that. And this is actually, some of the people who are here live today are going to know Rachel very well. But this is one of my followers. This is Rachel. And when I first made this slide, she's got a few more now, but Rachel had just pivoted her career. And she'd gone from selling physical hand-lettered design goods to deciding she wanted to offer copywriting services for creatives. So she was going to write the copy for their blog posts, for their website, all that kind of stuff. She had 69 followers on Instagram when she started doing this. It was a brand new Instagram. But within 1 week, she landed 4 huge clients. This is people like Lauren Hom, Designcuts, my company as well, Ian Barnard, one of the biggest digital scrapbookers in the world. She got all these clients in a week, and this was a brand new business. And so there's so many creatives out there who are just posting on Instagram for years and years and years and years. And then, they have nothing to show for it. So why did this work? It's because Rachel went direct. She actually implemented more of a sales mentality. She worked out who are her ideal clients and where can she find them. She didn't go in cold. She built context with these people. And so she actually commented on their stuff. She DM'd them. She was a big supporter of their work. So when she did reach out, they already knew her. It wasn't like a stranger saying, hey, give me money out of the blue. She sold to those who wanted and needed it. So she identified target customers who actually needed her help. They loved creating. They wanted to produce more content, but they didn't really like writing that much. And then she just asked. She just had the courage to go and ask them. She followed up with someone she didn't hear back. She made the ask, but she did it in a really kind way. She tried to implement shock and awe. It wasn't just a spammy message. She tried to find ways to stand out, message them in really creative ways. So I'm going to pause now. This is the longest section, but it's so important. I'm going to see, are there any questions that are going on right now? Oh, wow. Okay, I can see there's a bunch of questions.
There are a lot of questions from a lot of people, a lot of questions. So you can click on, start live answer, which is right below the questions. And then people will be able to see the question on the screen, be able to understand which question you're referring to.
Okay.
So you can see the question and you can answer.
Awesome. I mean, yes, and unfortunately, I won't be able to get to everyone's question, but I will try my best. So let's have this question. Can everyone see that? Is that good, Rashmi? Perfect. So this question is from Kerry. And Kerry asks, I totally get vanity metrics, but I haven't found my marketing voice. How do you find balance between testing things out, some of which may peak engagement, but maybe a one-off like your viral meme, and consistent content that's not hitting the mark? I think it's about being intentional, to be honest, because what are you chasing? If the only thing you're chasing is likes, then you're going to invariably create content around that, and it's going to be a bit more hollow. So I'm sure I could put out a meme tomorrow of Donald Trump or something like that, or Kylie Jenner, and it might get me more likes and I can stuff it full of hashtags, but does that really map to my goals? And so I think you need to think about what I like to call the content funnel. So if your content is up here, you need to think, what is the end goal? Is it for a client to potentially hire you? Is it for someone to buy something off of your website? And I always give a good example of this is The Future, who give marketing advice on business for creatives as well. And so their content is they give free business advice for creatives. That then funnels naturally down to their premium offering, which is paid courses for creatives. So it's very relevant. what a lot of people do is they're putting out content just to try and get a few more likes to make themselves feel good, but actually it's completely irrelevant compared to what their service or product they're selling is. So it's a better idea to actually get less likes in the short term, but have something that is going to naturally funnel people back to what you actually wanted to do, which is ultimately buy from you or use your services. So I hope that makes sense. Also, I'm a huge fan of like continually auditing your content. So I like to look at like the top performing content, which is relevant to my service offering, the mid performing and the low performing every single week. Don't just keep posting the same content because it will become stale. And the best way to mix it up is do more of the content that's performing well, and then keep dropping the worst performing content, get rid of it or change it. And then every week add something new, mix it up, see how that performs. If that performs really well, do more of that. If it performs not good, drop it and try something else. So you're kind of constantly iterating. So I hope that helps. Loads of questions. Okay, so Anna has a question. She said, you said Rachel messaged people in creative ways. What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is standing out. So one of my favorite business mentors, to give you an example, he needed investors for his company in the early days. And he realized that if he just sent an email, often it would hit that important person's secretary or some kind of gatekeeper, and it wouldn't reach them. And it would just be really boring, and it would get lost in a sea of noise in their inbox. It's very easy to hit delete on that. So what he did was he sent them a handwritten letter, and he put them in golden envelopes because he realized that would always stand out. And it did. And that's how he got his company off the ground. And I think you can do that in so many different ways. We've had people apply for jobs at my company where they've created a custom box where you open it and it has sweets in it and like a handwritten letter, and they designed a brochure specifically for us. It could be as simple as sending someone like a video message on Instagram because everyone else is spamming them with text every day. So being like, hey, like I'm a big fan, I'm a customer of yours, here's how I'd love to help. At least that is something that's a little bit different. And that's the kind of stuff that Rachel did. She went very personal, very specific. It's not like she just spammed the same thing out to 500 people and crossed her fingers. She kind of did a customized message for those people she wanted to reach.
I think Alex has asked a really nice question here, and I think other people would also want to know about it. That how do you, validate that you are marketing for your target audience, and how do you validate the same thing that the way of marketing, the way you are marketing, you will be reaching out to your ideal clients?
Yeah, I think really it comes down to putting in the foundational work to define your target people. Most people don't even do that step. So it's actually investing the time and research and work to plan that out. And that should be a real exercise. Most people like either don't think about it or do it like an afterthought. When I started my company, we spent days and days and days. We drew hypothetical people on a whiteboard. We even gave them a name, and we started really trying to define that audience. So it wasn't just like, what are they interested in? But it was even stuff like, what do they find funny? What do they find like off-putting? What do they care about? What are their values? What's their gender? How old are they? And obviously that won't be an exact fit, but it was so helpful because when we actually started putting out content, guess what? Like we knew our target audience. It was going to be designers. So when we started putting out stuff that appealed to designers, or we thought designers might find funny or useful or geek out over, they did because we'd invested the time to actually understand who we were serving. So I would kind of flip it. Instead of just looking at the people you're already marketing to and be like, how do I work out if they're my people? I would actually think, who do I want to serve? What do those people look like? Where do they hang out? And how do I reach them? You need to kind of take control of it. Instead of looking at your current following and be like, I don't know, are these people right or not? Actually work out who is right for me. And then you can start like pretty easily saying, okay, well, these people over here, they're not for me, but these people over here, I should focus more on those kinds. Shall I keep? I might need to keep going. There's so many fantastic questions. I'd have to answer all of them, but I want to make sure I get through everything. I hope that's okay, Rashmi.
I think we can take one or two more questions, and then we can go ahead with the presentation. Mark is asking us, if you go down in the questions tab, Mark has asked a really interesting question, and 5 people have voted the question. So it means a lot of people want to know about it. And he's saying that, he's asking that what should you post on Instagram in order to attract and get new clients? if we post work, we would attract a new designer, I guess. So he just want to understand that what should they post on Instagram to attract.
Yeah, perfect. So I actually did a post on my Instagram. It's at Tom Ross Media about this exact thing, which can break it down in more visual detail for you. But the bottom line is, first of all, post work. If you're going to post design work, which I think you can and you should, you want to be posting the kind of work that you want to get hired for. And again, this is a very common mistake I see people making. They put out work which is different from the actual work they dream of getting in from clients. So first of all, try and match that up. But secondly, you need to kind of see it through the eyes of the client. So I think things like case studies can be really good. So what you don't want to do is get really geeky and appeal to designers, showing all like the path form lines in Illustrator and like all the really geeky behind the scenes stuff in your software. Clients aren't really going to care about that stuff. But if it's something like, I worked with this client, here's a beautiful end result, and then do like a swipe album or something like that. And then it's like, here's the client's glowing testimonial. Here's some stats. So their business increased by 21% after we implemented this. And isn't that amazing? Showing some mock-ups to spark potential clients' imagination of like, here's the design actually in use and that kind of thing. So like clients are really just going to care about, does your work look good and how's it going to help them and their business? So if you can articulate that kind of stuff, I think that's really where it unlocks a lot. And I see so few designers doing this. All designers get into the geeky software stuff, but you actually need to be giving more deep case studies, client testimonials, happy clients, great work, showing how it's benefited. And I think a second thing you can and should do is basically teach them how to do what you're going to do for them for free, with the realization that most of them won't be bothered or won't have the skills to execute on that. So they're going to want to hire you anyway. So to show you what I mean, if I literally say, if you hire me, here's exactly the work I'm going to do for you with these kinds of frameworks. I'm going to help you in these ways. And here's my theories about how my website's going to help your conversions and da-da-da. Like when I did design, I did websites and people's conversions really went up and that kind of stuff. So if I was doing this now, I'd be teaching how to improve conversions, where clients and potential clients look at it, nod along and go, oh, that makes complete sense. I totally understand how that would help my business, but I'm not really a designer, so I'd rather just hire Tom to do it for me, and that's going to be a lot easier. So I hope that helps. Okay, Rashmi, I'm going to keep going if that's all right with you.
I think we
Perfect.
should go ahead with the presentation. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to build an effective brand, which again I think is so important, because sales only get you so far. Brand is what really gives you longevity and helps you stand out in your market. First of all, don't be lukewarm. I see so many people where they might have found a really fantastic niche, or they've got something really unique about what they offer, and they just kind of have like one toe in the water. They don't fully commit to it. So I always say to people, lean in completely. And this can be all kinds of stuff. I work with people who put out art about feminism and that kind of stuff, or body positivity, or people who illustrate punk rock illustrations. If you're just kind of like lukewarm on that, you're just like a little bit showing it off, then it's not really going to hit home with people. But if you're like, that's me all over, that's like everything we do is about this, you put it in your bio section on your website, all of your work looks like that. You're not just kind of tickling it, you're really owning it, and that becomes your brand. That is where you start to stand out in people's mind. So they think, okay, I need some illustration done for like a punk rock gig or something like that. Then the punk rock person goes in your mind. But if they're lukewarm on it, they're just not going to do that. It's going to be much more forgettable. Next thing, this has become almost like a buzzword, but bring value. If you want to build a brand, you need to actually be bringing value to your audience and to your community. And it's so easy to say, but it's so hard to do. And I'm very, very busy running Designcuts as my day job, but I have my personal brand where I help creatives like you to essentially master your marketing. And for me, I put so much work and time into trying to bring value to people. Like in my spare time, I'm DMing and responding to 100 plus DMs that I get every single day. Someone DMs me occasionally, I'll pick up the phone and give them a call and try and give them free consultancy. I know how much my time is worth and how much I used to charge for consultancy, but I just love helping as many people as I can. And by doing that, that's how you start to break out. And I know you had Michael Jander on recently for one of these webinars. He's fantastic at this too. And guess what? Most successful people who stand out and have a really compelling brand, they do this. It's the people where they keep all their secrets to themselves and they're not willing to share any of it without getting paid. They're the people that kind of don't really break out and grow. But I think the more you give, essentially, the more you get back. So to move on, this is one of the greatest lines of marketing I've ever heard. And it's from one of my former business mentors, Chase Reeves, but it is seriously so genius. So he taught me when he mentored me, don't use your audience, serve them. So I'm going to say this again because it's so important, guys. Don't use your audience, serve them. And it's basically saying, don't be selfish, be selfless. Are you going to use your audience? Are you going to try and extract money out of them? Are you just going to view them as numbers? Are you going to get them to follow you? Is it going to be all about how they benefit you? Or are you going to serve them? Is it literally going to be like you work for them, not the other way around? Is it going to be like this, some kind of hotel concierge where you're asking them, how can I help you? How can I do a better job? How can I improve things for you? How can I make you happier? And as soon as you start really trying to serve your audience, it changes everything. Because I operated in selfish ways for a lot of years because I thought that's how it was meant to be done. As soon as I started really serving my audience and caring about helping them, that's where everything started to change for me. So just before we go to the next section, has anyone got any questions about this? Abdullah's asking about the most common mistakes in marketing. There's a bunch. I'm just going to have a look. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to answer this one. So what are some of the common mistakes in marketing? I've covered some of them already. So it is treating people like numbers. It's chasing vanity metrics. It's using your audience, not serving them. It's really just operating in this kind of selfish echo chamber way. It's trying to build an audience of peers and stuff that's going to stroke your ego and get you more likes, instead of actually investing the time to pick a target audience, an ideal client, work out where those people and then try and bring them value and try and reach them in creative ways. It's being bland and generic. Instead of cutting through the noise in interesting ways, it's doing the same stuff as everyone else, so you're never going to stand out. It's being lukewarm on what you actually want to be doing instead of fully owning it and having the courage to fully lean into it. So a lot of stuff I'm teaching, if you're wondering about what not to do, the opposite of that, basically. Okay, so next question. Melissa Lake says, what if you don't have any secrets to share? It's not necessarily about secrets. This is not talking about state secrets. It's about value. So if you're asking what if you don't have any value to share, I would argue that we all have value to share. You are more experienced than your potential clients with all kinds of stuff. Even if you're just starting out, I know Fred, who's in the chat here, he is a junior designer, but he's sharing his honest journey of being a junior designer. So other junior designers can benefit from that. He might just be one step ahead of them, but he's learning and he's sharing that with his community so they can benefit from his trials and tribulations and ups and downs. And that's beneficial. So I don't think you need to be an A-lister. You don't need to be a huge name. You don't need to have 20 years experience to actually share value or share information. I think you can document your journey and share as you go. Let's see, other questions.
There is this really interesting question, which is how to be seen by people when you have just started new. So any tips for you, any tips that you would like to share with these people, that anyone who is starting new in the industry or new in the market, how can they make themselves visible to the clients?
Yeah, sure. Who asked that question, Rashmi? I'm just trying to find it. Or is it in the chat?
No,
either way.
It's in the questions tab itself. If you go down, it is being asked by Mikhil Kupstov.
Okay, so what to do when you're starting? Okay, yeah, I see it. Okay, so Mikhail, how to be seen by people when you just get started. First of all, have patience. Realize it doesn't happen overnight, especially if we're talking about building an audience or building a brand or getting a reputation in your industry. That can take years and years and years of just putting in the work. And I really believe if you look up compound interest graph, basically the graph looks like this. It starts very, very flat, and then it starts to slowly build, so slowly you barely see it, and then it starts to hockey stick and take off. And I see this time and time again. It's something I'm experiencing currently with my personal brand. You have to keep putting in the work. And over time, it starts to pick up, faster and faster. So first of all, don't lose patience. Don't do it for 3 months and then be like, I give up, it hasn't worked, because that's a really, really bad idea. But equally, you need to think about distribution. If you have no audience yourself, you need to hack and think about ways to get in front of other audiences. And there's tons of ways to do this. Can you find ways to bring value and guest blog? Can you get in front of people on their podcasts? Doing what I'm doing right now. This is distribution, right? I'm reaching a new audience through doing this. And so it's really trying to think like, can you do shared Instagram lives with friends? That's something I've done recently. And again, I keep getting new fans and followers by doing that. So you need to work out how can you bring value and then use that value to get in front of wider audiences. You don't just want to operate in like a little isolated bubble, because then you're not really going to grow. But also just putting out good stuff, because all these marketing hacks, they don't work if your content isn't good. And so I would really focus on honing your craft. Whatever it is you do, try and cut through the noise, try and make it better and better and better, because everything else is to be layered on top of that foundation. And I find I see the most growth when I actually just put out better content. Then all the distribution strategies really amplify it. But if the content sucks, none of that other stuff works. So I hope that helps. Because we got about 15 minutes or so, I'm going to skip to the next section, Rashmi, if that works.
Let's continue with the presentation, and post that we can take the Q&A at the end.
Perfect. Okay. So next up, and this is like the final section now, is how to build a community. And this kind of leads on from what I'm just talking about previously, but I really believe in community. I think it's one of the core pillars of how marketing should be done the right way. And I just think people really, really should be focusing more on cultivating a community themselves. So let's look at why this is so important. I like to refer to what most people do as shouting into the void. And if you think about this, this is like if there's a tornado in front of you or a windstorm or something, and you're putting your content out there, you're putting your services out there, and you're trying to just say, pay attention to me, and instantly it's gone. It's gone in the wind, it's lost forever. And it can be really frustrating because you put all this time into your work, into your content, and you're like, no one cares. What was the point? It can be really disheartening. And so I actually think the best way to build community is one person at a time. And what everyone does is they're trying to just shout out into social media land, and it's so busy, like no one's going to notice them. So what you need to do is you need to work out what kind of people are you trying to reach, where are they, and you can find them through hashtags. You can get immersed in these niches and communities and just start trying to make friends. Literally, you're not trying to sell them anything. You're not trying to market to them. You just want to get to know these people better. So comment on their stuff, build relationships, eventually DM them. Whatever you do, don't do the thing where you spam them. So you just like slide in their DMs, and then it's like, hey, buy my stuff, or hey, I want to help you, like, with my service or whatever it might be. Don't do that, because that's super off-putting. But what you can do is you can share common interests. You can support their work. Maybe you reshare it in your stories, if we're talking about Instagram here. But this works whatever platform you're on. Just one by one, over time, build relationships. And don't do these people as like a transaction. They're not a number. These are people. So think about making these people your best friend over a period of years and behave accordingly. This is not a deal that you're trying to close. You're trying to build up an ever-growing network of friends and peers and potential clients that you can hang out with. And that's a really, really, really beautiful thing when you do it right, because what 99% of people are doing is the pushy, spammy, sweetie stuff. And so actually, when you're just getting ingrained in your community and you become known as someone who's really positive, really supportive, who comments, who shares, who interacts in the right way, you cut through very, very quickly, because most people don't operate that way. And so I actually think if we take another look at this graph here, if you start looking for engagement, you can see it's got like this triangle graph going on my presentation. And the reason this is so important is as you start to grow, you might get a few hundred, a few thousand, a few tens of thousands of followers. It will start to grow. And you need to realize that not all followers were created equally. You need to really look for the most engaged people and then disproportionately allocate your time to them, because they're the ones that matter most. So with Designhill, for example, how many Instagram followers do you have, Rashmi?
1,000 plus.
Okay, so big number, right? Thousands and thousands of people. But how many people are on the webinar right now? I can't actually see, but 50, 100, something like that.
So the dashboard is showing as of now 51, but I'm sure there would be more number of people who are live right now, because there's some mismatch between the actual dashboard number and the number of people who have attended.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming there would be 100 plus people who are live listening to us right now.
Okay, amazing. So about 100 people. And so that's fantastic, because you 100 people who are live with us here now, you basically just indicated that you are far more engaged than the average follower. There might be a lot out of that 25,000 people where they just happen to follow because they like to post once, or maybe they never even see your content because of the algorithm, and maybe they never never comment, rather, they never engage, they probably never buy anything, they never go to your website. Whereas you guys, you presumably swiped up, or you saw this webinar somewhere, and then you showed up, you invested the time here, and you're here with us now. And that makes you a million times more valuable to any creative business than just a random disengaged follower. And so I think a big mistake that most people make is they try and split all their attention and all their energy and their effort across all of their followers. And they always think scalable. I'm going to keep shouting at all my followers and hope some people care. What you want to look for, if we go back to my presentation, is you want to drill down to those most engaged people, like the 50 or the 100 people who are here with us now, and you want to disproportionately give them value, help them, build relationships with them. So it would be a lot more beneficial, instead of shouting at 25,000 people, it would be more beneficial to get the 50 or 100 people on this webinar and then go and like build relationships with them afterwards, DM them afterwards, bring them value, share their stuff, and start building that hyper engaged community. And it's this quality over quantity, Shasha just said in the comments. And this is why I've only just crossed 10,000 on my Instagram. But when you look at my comment numbers, I have one of the most engaged Instagram accounts I've ever seen. I'm getting like well over 100 comments on every single post. And there's people that have 500,000 followers and get less engagement than I do. And it's because I'm building this really, really engaged hub where I only really care about the people who are invested in what I'm doing and want the value. I'm not trying to post memes to inflate my follower account. I'm not trying to just spread myself thin and serve everyone. I'm trying to really focus on those core people, and that changes everything, because that lets you do a better job for those people. And suddenly you're not worried about the algorithm. You're not worried about shouting into the void or trying to compete with everyone else. You're just focused on that small group of people and doing the best possible job you can for them. And that's a game changer, I promise. So I do this as well at my company, Designcuts. So we are a marketplace for designers, but unlike Designhill, which is service-based, we sell the stuff that designers use day to day, fonts and graphics and that kind of stuff. And the way I think about this, and I teach our customer care team this, I teach the whole team this in their training, is imagine if we had one customer. How would we treat that customer? They'd be our best friend, right? Because all of our revenue, all our livelihoods, all our jobs would be down to that one person. So we'd be sending them like gifs in the post all the time. We'd know everything about them. We would just be falling over ourselves to provide that 5-star service every single day. Anything they want, we want to do it for them. If we had one customer, they would be our whole world. And so we don't have one customer. We now have 500,000 customers, so it's a little bit harder. But I always say to the team, try and get as close to that mentality as you can. So you guys might not have one customer, you might not have 500,000, but you might have 12 customers or clients, or you might have 36, or you might have 1,000. But what you want to try and do is pretend like they're your only one and get as close to the best possible service that you can provide for those people. And remember, it's not like a 25,000 following, it's how many are in that engaged subset, and how can you just really, really over deliver for those people. And here's an example of marketing actually being kind of fun, because like I said, it doesn't have to be sleazy. So this is a few Instagram stories that I did a little while back. This has actually got a lot bigger since I shared this one. But essentially every Monday on my Instagram, I do something that I like to do called Make Them Smile Monday. And I just pick a random person where I think they're talented and they deserve a bit of support. And generally they get quite low engagement, so they get hardly any comments, a few likes and that kind of thing. And then I put it on my story and I say to the whole community, let's all go and leave them a supportive comment and let's make that person smile. Let's make them have a great day. And last time I did this, this Monday, in fact, I think the person got like 250 comments in the space of 24 hours. And she was messaging me. She was so happy. She thought it was incredible. And it's like just a really positive exercise for people to participate in. Llewellyn just said, what's your Instagram link? It is Tom Ross Media. So I'll put it in the chat for you guys. But that is still marketing, right? Because that is providing content. That's giving a nice emotional experience for your community. That's getting people involved and invested. It's making someone happy. They're probably going to become a bigger fan of me now because I did something nice for them. So there's like side effects of this, which are really positive. But fundamentally, I did it just because it was fun. I did it because I enjoyed making that person smile. But I'm not blind to the fact that there are residual marketing benefits around that. So fundamentally, what you want to do as a creative marketer is you want to act like a human being. You don't want to act like a robot that's just reducing people to numbers, that's churning people through some kind of conversion funnel system, or just seeing people on a stats dashboard and trying to extract and milk more value out of them. You want to build relationships. You want to care about people. You want to build an audience. You want to bring them value. And you just want to serve them as best you can. And I promise that is a better approach. In a world of spammy, sleazy marketing, it's the best way to stand out is to actually act like a human being on social media. Act more like you would in real life. So I'm sure you're all really lovely people in real life, but people have some weird behavior when it comes to the internet. So I think we all need to be a bit more human in what we're doing. So Rashmi, I've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Shall I maybe mention the incredible free bundle, and then I'll try and do a couple of quick fire questions, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Yeah. And all these people asking, all of these people are asking that whether they'll be getting the recording or not. So you will be once the webinar will be over, you will be getting the recording over an email. And we will also be posting this whole recorded video on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Amazing. Cool. So on this final slide, you guys can see we got some lovely design products. And this is nothing that we're trying to upsell you guys. We actually put this together as a free collection of design products, and I organized this with Rashmi. And this is just simply for joining the community over at Designcuts, but it's really, really cool. There's like textures in there and illustrations and vectors and even fonts. And these products are super popular, even at the full price. So we packaged them up simply for you guys today. And I'm going to add a link just here. So free design bundle. And this. Hopefully that worked. Is that showing, Rashmi? Yes, amazing. Cool. So I hope you guys enjoy it. There's a ton of stuff in there, and also we're adding more products every single month. But I really hope you enjoy it, and like I say, completely free of charge. So do grab them. I might have time just for 1 or 2 final questions. I wish I had more time. I have to jump on another podcast after this, Rashmi. It was bad planning on my part. It's such a busy day.
We can take final 2-3 questions here over here, which are mostly upvoted. So you can just let me go through that.
Yep.
Or you can just check the questions out.
Okay. Well, have you got 1 or 2 that you'd like me to cover, and I'll try and give a really quick answer for people.
Okay, let me check.
Mm-hmm.
We got these really interesting questions. So, just give me a minute. I lost that question.
No worries. But by the way, just while we're bringing up this final question, I appreciate you guys so much. Like, honestly, being live with us today, it's been super fun, and you guys have been awesome. So thank you.
Yes. So during the start of this webinar, we got this question from Thomas, and he want to understand that how to build an effective brand. Although we covered all about it, but if you can just give them a quick tips about how should they build an effective brand, that would be great.
Okay. So yeah, I touched on this a little bit, but essentially, I think what you need to do to build an effective brand is you need to be the person that pops into someone's head when they get asked about something. So I have all kinds of friends where if someone says, "Oh, I need some like artistic hand lettering," I'll get one or two people who immediately pop in my head. Or we've got Paul Hallam in the comments. He has fully leaned into being a kids illustrator. He used to like do a bit of this and dabble in this, so he probably wouldn't have popped in my head. But now if someone says, "Hey, do you know any children's illustrators?" straight away, before they even finish their sentence, I'd be like, "Yeah, Paul, he's great." And that for me is branding. That is branding at its best, because it just means that you're the person that springs to mind. You're the natural recommendation. So whether I'm recommending for someone else or I need someone myself, that's the difference between, you know, the hundreds or thousands of forgettable people who I'd never think of, and suddenly being like, "Oh yeah, that's the person for me." That is brand. That's why some big companies or logos, sportswear, whatever it might be, that's why they pop in our heads. It's because they fully own their space. They've leaned into it. They often have a compelling story around what they're doing as well. So story can be a great way to stand out. But that, like, whatever you do, don't half do it. Fully lean into it and try and be all about that, and realize the power of niching within that as well. So you can see the difference between like, "Hey, I'm just another generic designer," and like, "I'm the person where I do hand painted." That's my face, by the way, how embarrassing. But it could be like, "I do hand painted, customized phone cases for people. And that's all I do. And I shout about it proudly day in, day out. I'm the phone case guy." So next time someone's like, "I need a phone case," guess who's going to pop in their head? It's going to be me, because that's all I do, compared to some random website where that's like 1% of what they do. Does that make sense?
Then one very interesting question.
Sorry, Rashmi, I hate to do this. I've just seen the time. I might need to jump on this next podcast, and I feel terrible. So there's a couple of things we can do. Either people can hit me up on Instagram with follow-up questions, or if it's okay with you, I'd be more than happy to jump back on another time and just do like straight Q&A as much as we can, because I really want to help every single person here.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. All of the attendees who have joined us live today, and the questions, because of the time crunch, which did not get answered, please reach out to Tom on his Instagram, DM him, and he'll answer all of your questions over there. So because we are short of time, but I'm sure that we will be back again with another webinar with Tom, probably with some other topic, and you can join us again in that webinar. So thank you so much, Tom, for joining us today for this webinar.